Reds, it's Talking Reds, and today I'm joined by James Pearce, a face and a name that I'm sure you know, previously of the Echo, now of the Athletic, and like everyone else, getting really excited about the fact that football is finally returning on Wednesday, with the Reds playing on Sunday, of course, against the Blues at Goodison Park. James, a big exclusive today on the Athletic, an interview with Gerrard, an interview that I've just read there, and it's with Steven. I think it's always one of them. If you're a Red, you know, he never fails to put a smile on your face, and that's what he's done with this interview. He's really bigging up the manager, but you know, from someone like Steven, an absolute legend of the club, for him to be talking about statues for Klopp and Klopp being the best manager in the world and all that kind of stuff, and the stuff about taking Liverpool to another level as well. A nice build up to the return of the season, that, because like I say, it's a big smile on the face for everyone who reads that, I think.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. I think it felt like a good time to be trying to have a chat with Steven, so close to Liverpool ending that 30-year wait, and you know, you think if anyone is probably best placed to sum up what it means to all Liverpool fans everywhere, you know, it is Steven Gerrard, for you know, the man who carried those hopes and dreams on his shoulders for so long. Of course, you know, he wasn't able to realise that dream himself, but from having half an hour with him the other day, you know, the pride and the absolute joy for him shines through, because as he said, you know, of course, being Rangers manager takes up a lot of his time these days, but you know, he always has been and always will be a massive Liverpool fan. And as he described it himself, he said, you know, I'll be the proudest man on this planet the day that Liverpool do finally make it mathematically certain.
And he does touch on, and you touch on it with him, the 3 times that he's a Premier League runner-up, if you like. And obviously, you know, Steven did so much for Liverpool. For me, should always be looked back at, you know, as a bona fide Liverpool legend, of course. And should be right up there among sort of the best midfielders England have seen as well. I mean, that's a ongoing debate, and one I wouldn't recommend you get involved in on Twitter. but you know, for us, for Liverpool fans, we know how good he was. We know what he did for the club. And there's little bits in your interview there where it still feels like he's beating himself up about it. Do you know what I mean? He says things like, you know, they're just regrets that about my football career that I just have to live with. And you kind of want to shake him, don't you, and say, you don't need to have any regrets, Steven. You know what I mean? You won everything else. You put everything into it. Everyone could see that you put absolutely everything into it. And to be blaming himself for, you know, the ridiculous meme moment now, if you like, that everyone always throws back at him, he really shouldn't be beating himself up about that, should he?
No. I mean, you know, from probably 33, 34 years of watching Liverpool, he's the most complete footballer I've ever seen. You know, I only really remember the very back end of Kenny Dalglish playing. So for me, in my experiences, you know, no one comes close to Steven Gerrard in terms of not only the quality, but just, you know, a man who epitomises everything that's best about Liverpool Football Club. And you think, you know, the reason he is loved so much as well isn't just, you know, all the heroic performances he put in, but the loyalty that he showed. When you think, you know, he could have won a hell of a lot more. He could have had a lot more money in his bank account if that was what had motivated him over the years with all the offers he had. But you know, that bond with the Kop, he just could never bring himself to break, and that is why he is idolised, quite rightly so. And yeah, I think, you know, the way he is, you know, he will always have regrets, because we know that was, you know, the holy grail for him was trying to add that one missing thing from his CV. You know, he won everything else in football. But yeah, even when I think back to 13, 14, and you know, there's obviously the slip against Chelsea gets talked about, and of course rival fans, you know, pounce on it and take great delight in it. But I think what sometimes gets overlooked is the only reason Liverpool were anywhere near winning the title that season was just how good Gerrard was. You know, of course, it was the season of Suarez and Sturridge and Raheem Sterling coming through as well. But Gerrard was absolutely immense in that second half of the season. You know, you only have to look at his numbers in terms of assists and goals. And so, yeah, you know, if anyone's never had anything to apologise for Liverpool-wise, it's it's Steven Gerrard. I think, the way he is, he's bound to have, as you talked about in the interview, little regrets. He said that I have to live with. But I asked him, when you see Jordan Henderson lifting that trophy, will there be a bit of you thinking, that should have been me, like just nagging away? But I think he's very much able to separate those regrets, and of course he wishes he'd been able to take that final step, but it doesn't diminish whatsoever his absolute joy and delight for Jordan Henderson personally, and for everyone connected with the club, because as he said himself, he always will be a supporter, and this means absolutely everything to him.
I think you can see that as well, can't you? And you've been able to see it all along, that he is, as you say, a genuine supporter. I mean, I always remember, him being in the crowd away at Villa. I always liked the fact that he did that, because he's Steven Gerrard. He can go where he wants in football grounds. He can go in the lounges and all the rest of it. But to sort of, to go as the away fan, if you like, and to do it that way, and to probably know that, at some point he was going to be recognised as well. I just thought that was great. I always liked to see, a football player in a crowd. I think you've seen Henderson do that as well when Sunderland have been playing and things like that. Just says to me that, you'll know yourself, you've dealt with a lot of footballers over the years. You get the impression, don't you, without naming names, that some of them are just good at a sport, and they don't, they maybe don't love it the way we do as fans, or, you know what I mean? And with Steven, with Steven, that he does. That there's a raging, burning passion inside him for Liverpool. Whereas, we've had players at Liverpool in the past that, people can fill in the gaps for themselves, who were just good at football but didn't really give a shit about Liverpool. It was just a career for them. Yeah,
100%. And I think that always came through whenever I spoke to him as a player, and it certainly comes through now. Since he's moved on from Liverpool, because it always meant absolutely everything to him. I think the reality is, and I talked with him as well about the support for the college, the football college in Liverpool that bears his name, the Liverpool Football College, based at Mather Avenue. And he talked about his dreams as a kid, and how if it hadn't worked out for him, what he would have done. Well, what he would have done is he would have been sat on the Kop watching Liverpool. That's the way he is. If he couldn't have lived that dream. Most people don't get to live the dream. He was, his dedication and talent enabled him to do so. But he would have been, in those away ends on a regular basis if he hadn't made it at Liverpool. So, I think the other thing that struck me was, I think what also gets overlooked sometimes with Steven Gerrard is, at times in his Liverpool career, he played with some unbelievably world-class players, but there were also a lot of other times when he was surrounded by a lot of mediocrity at Liverpool, and he had to carry that team almost single-handedly on his shoulders. And I think, one of his quotes in the article was, I just wish I was 30 rather than 40, because I'd absolutely love to be involved in this. And I think that's only natural. You look at it and you look at how complete this Klopp team is, and you look at playing for a manager like Klopp. You think, what would imagine a peak Gerrard in this Liverpool team, and especially at a time when there's such stability off the field, compared to all the unrest and disunity under Hicks and Gillette and everything else that Gerrard had to kind of persevere with. So he's that passion for Liverpool burns brighter than ever in him.
Yeah, I mean, I always remember him pinging a 30-yard pass to Deggan against Arsenal, and Deggan miscontrolling it and it going out for a throw. And I think Gerrard's face and body language was exactly the same as every Liverpool fan at that time. But the other thing he's really good on in the interview, I thought, mate, was Henderson, because Henderson, I think, is a fantastic story in terms of what he's gone through, all the doubters, all the the people who thought he wasn't good enough for Liverpool. Obviously, Brendan was all set to sell him. He's talked before how he was in tears at that prospect, and he's come back from that to be a true leader, a true captain. And you get the impression that Gerrard's done his little bit along the way with sort of mentoring Jordan to a small extent, maybe. And he seems, you get a sense of a real passion from Gerrard there, that he can't wait to, like the rest of us, he can't wait to see Jordan, do his little pigeon steps and lift that trophy above his head.
Yeah, definitely. I think the respect that Steven Gerrard has got for Jordan Henderson, absolutely shone through in that chat we had, because as Steven said himself, he said he shared a lot of that journey with Jordan. He was there in those early days when Jordan was the first to admit he really struggled. It was a huge step for him coming from Sunderland, and Steven Gerrard really took him under his wing and mentored him and helped him through that difficult period, both on and off the pitch, in terms of adjusting to life at Liverpool. And I think and you can imagine, knowing what Steven Gerrard is like, you can imagine how this kind of strikes a chord with him. The fact that Jordan Henderson didn't throw in the towel, that he didn't shrug his shoulders and give up and say it's just not going to happen for me at Liverpool. I'll go to Fulham, I'll go wherever else, and I'll still have a decent career elsewhere. He rolled his sleeves up and said, no, I'm going to show people, I'll prove them wrong. And he's almost, it's felt like almost like a decade-long ongoing battle to win over people and constantly silence critics and all the rest of it. But I think on the back of winning the European Cup and then being the man who's going to lift Liverpool's first league trophy for 30 years, I think Jordan Henderson has well and truly put that debate to bed. And I think there's kind of two sides to it. For Steven Gerrard, there's the respect for Jordan Henderson, the man, and the way in which he's led the club and succeeded him as captain, but also massive admiration for the way in which Henderson's developed as a centre midfielder as well. Because I think sometimes with Jordan Henderson, you almost his attitude and his model professionalism and the way he is with other people gets talked about so much that maybe his quality sometimes gets overlooked. And I think the fact that someone like Steven Gerrard is saying that he believes Henderson would be a worthy winner of the PFA Player of the Year award and potentially the Football Writers Award as well, just gives you a scale of the calibre of the performances he's produced consistently over the course of this season.
Yeah, and that interview in full is available on The Athletic, so check that out. And James, how's it going with The Athletic then, and how's it been sort of during lockdown, producing content every week, regardless of there actually not being any football?
It's been a challenge, yeah. I must admit, I think like most fans, absolutely delighted that this 3-month stint is coming to an end and we've got proper football back on the agenda this week. It's the one positive has been able to go away and do stuff and work on articles that usually you just wouldn't ever really get the chance to do. Things like a big in-depth piece on Aquilani and what a saga like that in terms of why did that go so spectacularly wrong, and even on the back of the Sunderland Netflix documentary looking at being Liverpool, and which was almost groundbreaking at the time, and speaking to loads of people involved in that. So it's been nice to do some other stuff that usually you just wouldn't get the chance to do in the normal routine. But yeah, it's also been a struggle, especially juggling working from home with homeschooling and getting shot in the head with Nerf gun bullets along the way when you're trying to do Skype conversations. So, I think I've still got another couple of months to put up with that, because I don't think there's much chance of him going back before September. But coming up to a year now since I left the Echo for The Athletic, and definitely no regrets. It's been great to be able to have more time to be able to do stuff in greater detail, and really, really enjoying it.
And anyone that does sort of follow you on Twitter will see that, people love to constantly ask you about transfers, about who Liverpool are going to buy, might buy, not going to buy, etc. You've even become a bit of a sort of a meme in yourself, haven't you, mate? People using these photos of you pulling various faces and absolutely bizarre photoshops kicking around as well. It's entertaining if nothing else, but yeah, it doesn't feel right not to ask you about transfers. We've got you on. Obviously, there was the whole Timo Werner affair. We've talked about that all, you and us, in depth. But now there's a lot of talk, a lot of chat again about Phil Coutinho. I just thought what do you make of the prospect of that ever happening? I mean, I know your colleague Si has already put something out on Twitter the other day saying basically no chance. But would you reiterate Si's stance on that, or do you think there's a world out there where Phil does come back to Liverpool?
No, I think you file it under unlikely. The only thing that I think even makes it a remote possibility would be, does it drop to a level financially that you think it makes sense? Because certainly going back 12 months to when there was probably the last bout of a lot of talk about Coutinho potentially coming back, the numbers were still crazy in terms of the loan fee and the wages. I think he was on over 250 grand a week at Barcelona, and so that's the only thing that makes me think that there's even the remotest chance. But then I think there's so many reasons why it wouldn't happen, from going right back to the way in which he conducted himself that summer when he was trying to engineer an exit. I think I've been surprised how many people on social media have been clamoring for it to happen on the basis that I think this is a guy that had a very mysterious back injury that coincided with being told in Munich by Mike Gordon that he wouldn't be going anywhere that summer. How unsettling it was that sticking in a transfer request on the eve of the new Premier League season. Even there was stories put out there from people close to him that he didn't feel valued or respected enough by Liverpool, and that he wasn't regarded as the main man and all the rest of it. So I don't think that sits well with people, and I know it certainly doesn't sit well with the staff in terms of, we all know how much Klopp prides that loyalty and that commitment to the cause, and if you're not 100% committed, then he doesn't want you around. And even that summer when Coutinho stayed, that was very much driven by the owners, who just felt that it would have been ridiculous to sell him then, because it was too short a period to try and replace him. So no, I think dressing room wise, I don't see there being a massive issue. I think when you speak to the players, I think players are quite laid back about this kind of thing, and a lot, especially the Brazilian lads, are still close to Coutinho. So I don't think it's an issue there. But you just think, he wanted to be the main man. He wouldn't come back to Liverpool as the main man. That's without a shadow of a doubt. Where's he probably best playing? Probably through the middle in an attacking kind of central role. Well, what does that say to Naby Keita or Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain if you bring him back? And and also if you bring him back on massive money, what does that say? So I think you certainly file it under unlikely, that one.
And do you see Liverpool doing any business, or do you think they'll keep the powder dry because of the situation with the pandemic and the uncertainty about finances?
Yeah, I think certainly at the moment, all the talk is it will be a very quiet window for Liverpool in terms of incomings. I think obviously the reasons for not pushing ahead with the Timo Werner deal have been well documented in terms of just too much uncertainty with all the revenue streams having dried up, and not knowing what the deal is with yet in terms of the rebate for the TV companies, when they're going to be able to get match day revenues again, when and how quickly the commercial revenue will pick back up again. So I think at the moment, all the noise coming out of Liverpool is it will be very quiet in terms of incomings. I think maybe we might see a slight shift in that stance later on. Once we get this, if this season, as it looks like it will do, touch wood, gets completed by the end of July, then in August, if the coronavirus rate is still dropping, there hasn't been a second spike or anything like that, and things are looking a lot rosier in terms of getting fans back into grounds and just the general financial climate for Liverpool looking better, then I think then Liverpool would have some kind of clarity in terms of maybe adding one or two to the squad. But no, I mean I don't think it was ever going to be a busy window for Liverpool, because we're talking about a team that are 25 points clear at the top, and I know Klopp is massively excited about the young players that are coming through. So I think we'll see a lot more of Harvey Elliott and Curtis Jones and Nico Williams and people like that. And, I think Liverpool will definitely be one of those clubs who probably looks within their youth ranks for solutions rather than dipping into the market.
Well, we shall see. And football back this weekend, as I say, loads of stuff on the Anfield Wrap to come, loads of stuff on the Athletic too. Check that out. Check James out on Twitter as well for those weird pictures that I mentioned. Thanks very much, mate, for taking the time today. I'll let you get back to your homeschooling and shark videos. This has been the Anfield Wrap's Talking Reds, but just stay with us for one more important message. But yeah, thanks again to James there.
Cheers, Gareth.
All right, the Reds, thanks very much for watching another Anfield Wrap video. Thanks very much for supporting the Anfield Wrap all these years, and particularly during the current crisis that we're all going through. We'd like your support on one more thing, and that is your vote in the British Podcast Awards Listener's Choice. It's really easy to vote for the Anfield Wrap in this. Just go to the BritishPodcastAwards.com/vote. You can search for the Anfield Wrap there, select the Anfield Wrap, make sure you verify your email. The email may well drop into your spam folder or your trash folder. Verify your vote. You've voted for the Anfield Wrap, you've done your bit, and hopefully when the vote closes on July the 6th, we're going to win the thing this time, because we've come second 3 times now to BBC-backed podcasts. And this time, we want to win it. Because you know what our mate Bill said about coming first and coming second. And this time, we've got a thirst for first. So do your bit, please. Nice one. Vote for us. Vote for the Anfield Wrap. Up the Reds.